Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. In our top story, the Virgin Islands Housing Authority initiated legal action for the eviction of 3 elderly residents for showcasing compassion. News 2 contacted the property manager of the Pedro homes where the situation mustered. However, the manager was not allowed to speak to the media without permission from the housing administration. The immediate supervisor of the property was contacted at the housing authority. However, as of news time, that administrator did not respond back. News 2's Stephanie Brown reports.
Residents at the Wim Gardens homes may be facing eviction for showing compassion. Currently, citizens residing at this Virgin Islands housing property are facing issues on security, which they say hasn't been addressed. Byrne Tyson, along with 2 other residents, received a 30-day notice of termination for the violation of a tenant lease agreement. The notice reads that the violation is for feeding 2 feral or wild dogs, and the document also alleges that 1 big brown dog that follows the tenant, Ramon Delgado Francesca, attacked a housing authority staff member as well as other residents. Mr. Francesca, who doesn't speak English fluently, informed that he has been a resident of the Wilfredo Pedro homes for the elderly for over 30 years and has never had any prior violations, and he is scared of losing his home.
He said that the dog arrived here on the grounds. Nobody knew where the dog came from, and he said the dog sat outside his door, and he feels sorry for it, and he gave the little puppy, when he was a little puppy, water and food. And he said not only him, but nearly everybody in the community in this area fed the dog.
Friends and family members of residents use social media to address the plight of the 2 shelterless dogs.
Somebody came and took the 2 dogs, and so now the dogs are living in this person's house, and they're not attacking, they're not wild, they're just now somebody's pet.
The dogs were able to freely roam the property because the gate at the entrance is not operating, and residents have complained about stolen property and random individuals roaming the grounds. For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
Now, Mr. Delgado stated that since the dogs were taken off the property, he was informed verbally by on-site staff that the notice of eviction was null. However, he is demanding that a written document be provided to him. Be sure to count on 2 to keep you updated. Well, on Friday, June 3rd, as we reported, the Virgin Islands Police Department publicly informed that about 9:21 p.m. on Friday, June 2nd, officers were present at the Eldra Schultebrand facility in Estate 22 in reference to a sexual assault. The Eldra Schultebrand Residential Psychiatric Facility is run by the Virgin Islands Department of Health. Police arrested 59-year-old Clark on charges of first-degree rape and first-degree unlawful sexual contact after receiving reports that he sexually assaulted another man. During a police interview, Clark, who suffers from schizoaffective mental disorder, admitted that he raped a guy. Police Detective Simon wrote that. The Virgin Islands Department of Health issued statements on the incident today. Here's more.
A threat to the well-being and safety of one of the Department of Health's residents at Eldra Schultebrand facility was identified, and as a result, the Department of Health immediately contacted the Virgin Islands Police Department and the Department of Human Services Adult Protective Services to have the alleged perpetrator removed and placed into their custody of the Virgin Islands Police Department. The Department of Health is taking this situation very seriously. We are working closely with the Virgin Islands Police Department and the Department of Justice and taking measures to ensure the safety of all of our patients. We do not condone violence within any of our operations. Other actions that the Department of Health is taking include increasing the nursing rounds within our facility and exploring other security measures that can be implemented in order to ensure this type of incident never happens again.
The Department of Health has been in communication with the family of the affected individual. It is of great importance to the Department of Health that the mental and physical well-being of this individual is addressed. We have ensured that the individual is receiving therapeutic intervention, which includes individual and group therapy. The alleged perpetrator has been arrested and currently remains at the Bureau of Corrections.
The Virgin Islands Relay Service, a phone solution for people who are deaf, hard of hearing, visually impaired, or have a speech disability. They're sponsoring 2 events in which attendees can meet the Virgin Islands Relay team and learn more about different relay services. Here's more.
Tonight here on St. Thomas and tomorrow in St. Croix, we're hoping to explain a lot of the services that are available, to bring the community to these meetings and to answer any questions they might have on how they can get access to these services. It all comes at no cost to the individuals as long as they have a phone line or internet service. So those are the critical parts, and we will be explaining more in detail about the variety of services and answering their questions about how they can get it. VIA is actually paying for all this to make sure it's available in the Virgin Islands. They are the ones that work with the Public Service Commission, and it's required by the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, that all phone companies provide like services. And VIA is the only one in the Virgin Islands currently providing these services, and they work with the FCC, they work with the local Public Service Commission, and they're the ones that are behind what we're doing here. You know, it's extremely critical. You know, obviously, I was born deaf, meaning I can't hear anything. I couldn't hear a pin drop. You know, I could feel it maybe or something, but I can't hear it. And it's really nice to be able to use the relay services, because then I don't have to depend on another person to talk for me if I need to make a doctor's appointment or maybe ask some personal financial questions. I don't want maybe other people to know that, and I can have a direct communication. You know, I can have my independence, you know, and there's a wonderful liberating feeling by utilizing these services.
Again, you could learn more by attending these workshops. Now, one workshop kicked off earlier tonight on St. Thomas at the Roy Schneider Hospital's Breeze Cafe. The next one will be held on Wednesday on St. Croix at the Palms at Pelican Cove from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. About 150 customers on portions of St. Thomas feeders 7B and 10B experienced a service interruption, a 2-hour service electric interruption that began at 2 a.m. on Tuesday. The service interruption, WAPA says, was necessary to allow WAPA personnel to perform equipment upgrades to system components. Affected areas included the Vitreco Mall, Pueblo Supermarket, Estate Thomas, and a service was restored early morning. The Homeland Security, Public Safety and Justice Committee will be meeting on Friday, 10 a.m. in the Lowitz Conference Room on St. Croix to get an update on hurricane preparedness plans from the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency, or VITEMA, VI Fire Services, and the VI National Guard. Be sure to count on 2. We will have highlights from that session. Well, in other news, as announced, Governor Mapp's March 22nd, 2017 news conference, the final fiscal year 2018 budget would be delayed while further efforts were made to reduce expenditures, and new initiatives to raise revenue could be factored into the territory's spending plan. The planned budget delay was discussed at the March news conference and reported in the days following. The executive branch is required to send the legislature a budget for their consideration by May 31st of each year, and the Mapp-Potter administration's previous 2 budgets were submitted prior to the deadline. During the March 22nd news conference called to discuss fiscal matters, Governor Mapp stated that his financial team would have a much more accurate picture of the territory's finances at the close of fiscal year 2017's third quarter. Now, in a release from Government House, Nellen Barry, who is the director of the Office of Management and Budget, he said, "We anticipate having a more complete fiscal profile at the end of June, which marks the end of the third quarter of the fiscal year. By then, as the governor previously indicated, the Office of Management and Budget and the financial consultants will have completed an analysis of the impact of new revenue streams and reduced expenditures on the fiscal condition of the government." As we reported earlier this week, $1.5 million has been set aside for the Schneider Regional Medical Center's emergency repairs by the legislature and Public Finance Authority. CEO Bernard Wheatley said the major areas that will be addressed will be the replacement of the chilled water lines that are the backbone of the hospital air conditioning system, replacement of the hospital steam line system, and repair or replacement of the hot water production and distribution systems. While the White House puts the spotlight on Congress, hoping to refocus on legislative priorities, but Capitol Hill is getting attention for another reason right now. Karen Kaifa looks at the Balaton Act by the Republicans, hoping to jumpstart a stalled agenda while awaiting a potentially blockbuster public testimony. Here's more.
With a domestic agenda stalling, a flurry of White House activity engaging Congress. The president welcoming Republican leadership to talk health care and tax reform after senators had their own status check.
We had another of our ongoing discussions about the way forward on health care.
On Monday, Trump's top legislative aide told reporters health care and the budget are on tap for the summer, but also acknowledged investigations into possible ties between Trump associates and Russia are detracting from efforts. This as Washington counts down to potentially blockbuster Senate testimony by fired FBI Director James Comey, and as the president creates more distraction via Twitter. But some Republicans say it's Congress who needs more focus.
If there is, things going on around us, that shouldn't detract at all from what we need to do, helping create jobs and getting through tax reform and infrastructure. I would view that more as an excuse.
Democrats highlighting the importance of fact-finding on Russia, the elections, and Trump, but arguing Republicans should be able to multitask.
The American people have a right to know the truth. And why would the Republicans stand in the way of the truth? Why can't we see his tax returns? But again, we're talking about him. What we should be doing is working on job creation in our country.
A notion of GOP inertia and infighting, key messaging for Democrats looking to change their political fortunes in the 2018 midterms. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
And keeping our eye on the economy, solar continues to be the hot spot in today's job market. Solar jobs grew 17 times faster than the total U.S. economy last year. That's according to an International Renewable Energy Agency report published last Wednesday. More than 260,000 people work in the solar industry. That's up by 24% from 2015. The IREA report showed most solar workers are in the installation business. Other leading jobs include manufacturing, project development, sales, and research and development. Keeping our eye on the economy, the numbers there, the Dow down 47, NASDAQ down 20, S&P 500 also down at 6. Coming up on News 2, interested in astronomy, love to stargaze, and want a closer look at space? Well, we have the event coming up just for you. That's coming up next. Turning to some Caribbean news, Alex Bruno, who is the political scientist, says the release of his political poll, he has been experiencing some different encounters with those who are at odds with his poll. Here's some more.
Since the release of the results of his recent poll, Alex Bruno says he has been experiencing some interesting encounters, particularly with individuals who are at odds with his findings. His 14th to 30th April poll found that the Labour Party would retain power if a general elections were to be held today. Bruno did, however, point to certain constituencies where he says he found that the ruling DLP could have some challenges even if Labour would win.
Leave Marigot and Salisbury alone. I think it will take a humongous political shift in opinion and thinking to take these constituencies from the blue. Grand Bay, Vickers, Tisavan, Cottage, Portsmouth. It's going to take even a bigger seismic shift in the opinions of the Dominican populace to move them from red. And I believe it's not going to move. That's my opinion. It may not, but that's what I stand by. However, I wasn't sure about Grand 4. That's why I spent more time there looking at the samples, and what I put out about Grand 4 and La Plaine and Maho is what I found.
Bruno says he was attacked for his findings that St. Joseph would be a toss-up.
It has been a little rough, you know. I think we are so politically divided in Dominica that people like me who try to make a conscious effort to stand in the middle and present professional information get tied up in the quagmire, in the melimilage, in the labu. But I refuse to accept it. I will defend my work and maintain my integrity as much as I can. And one thing I can tell the public is that as a Dominican, I will not compromise my thinking on anything that I am professionally equipped to do. So if you think that you can scare me out of commenting publicly on matters of politics, my area of competence, you can think again.
Well, the Coast Guard repatriated 25 Dominican migrants to a Dominican Republic Navy patrol boat on Saturday following an at-sea interdiction of the migrants in the Mona Passage. Now, 5 other migrants interdicted in the group are facing federal criminal immigration charges in the U.S. District Court of Puerto Rico. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection Maritime Patrol aircraft detected the migrants the night of May 29, traveling aboard a 25-foot boat just off the west coast of Puerto Rico. Coast Guard watch standard in the Sector San Juan. They diverted the Coast Guard cutter Richard Dixon that arrived on the scene and interdicted the migrant vessel. The crew provided the migrants with life jackets and embarked all the passengers. Once on board the cutter, the migrants received food, water, shelter, and basic medical needs. The 5 migrants facing federal prosecution were transferred to the custody of Customs and Border Protection in the agents in Mayagüez. We'll turn our attention back here at home. Principal Simra D. Brown and the Ulla F. Mulla Elementary School, they hosted the Commissioner of Tourism, Beverly Nicholson Doty, on May 31st for the school's annual Tourism Day celebration. Now, that special event saw the Muller campus transformed into exciting tourist destinations around St. Thomas, as you can see pictured there. According to Principal Brown, the fun and educational activity is held to instill the importance of tourism in students. This year, however, the school pulled out all the stops and greeted Commissioner Nicholson Doty and a delegation of tourism officials with dancers donning vibrant headdresses, steel pan music by the Muller Fanatics, conch shell blowing, cultural dancing by the Muller Bambula dancers and drummers, a mukajumbi maypole planting, and local sweet treats, much more. Principal Brown guided the group to each destination, which included stops at the Muller Market that featured local herbs and spices, visits to a museum featuring local artifacts. At several of the stops on the campus, students gave brief oral presentations to showcase their knowledge of Virgin Islands history and culture. Job well done. Commissioner Nicholson Doty also offered some high praise for their effort. 6 students were recognized for successfully completing the Stewards of the Reef program. The program was from January 15th to June 4th, 2017. That ceremony was held last Sunday, June 4th, at the Nature Conservancy in Estate La Grande Princess on St. Croix. A similar recognition event is being planned for participants in the St. Thomas-St. John district. St. Croix students who completed the Stewards of the Reef include Kilani Titter, the Samuel Gittins Jr., Nicholas Durgadine, Amaya Estril, Zayen Calixt, Vernice Jagroub. Now, these 6 students are in grades 10 to 12, attending the St. Croix Central High School, Educational Complex High, and the St. Joseph Catholic High. They were recognized for successfully completing that 5-month program that is aimed at increasing awareness of the importance of protecting and managing local coral reefs and related ecosystems. The Stewards of the Reef program is in partnership with the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, UVI, the Nature Conservancy, Red Hook Dive Center, and St. Croix Blue Water Adventures. Well, for those who are interested in astronomy, a very exciting event is coming up. It's presented by UVI and the Edelman Observatory. They're hosting the first ever International Astronomy Conference on St. Thomas. The focus of that conference is the discussion of the exciting detections of gravitational radiation over the past 18 months, which is confirming an 100-year-old prediction of Einstein. The General Conference is only open to paid registrants due to space limitations. There will be, however, a specific talk designated for public access to be held at UVI's ACC building this Thursday, June 8th at 7 p.m. Admission is free and open to everyone. And finally, they will be hosting the Edelman Observatory open house this Friday, where they will be discussing the conference coming up. Meanwhile, the observatory will be hosting its next public observing session on Friday, June 9th. That's from 7 to 10 p.m. Guests will be treated to views of various deep sky objects and planets. The evening also featured a video presentation describing the exciting and newly confirmed discovery of gravitational radiation. As usual, there will be a shuttle service from the Sibley School parking lot near Sibs, and you can call them for more information. Here's more.
That we've been supported by a new agreement with NASA to develop a astrophysics major at the University of the Virgin Islands. We're always thrilled to have people come up and join us on our open observing nights. Try to have them about once a month. If anyone's interested in joining, please, or joining us up here, please just send an email to edelmanobservatory@gmail.com. Be happy to put you on our mailing list, and we'll get you up here so you can learn more about all that we do.
Opportunity to learn more about the weather as well. Speaking of which, News 2 weather forecast is coming up next.
At the satellite loop here on this Tuesday, you can see where exactly the moisture is right now, right over the Gulf Coast into parts of Florida. There have been a couple of areas that have seen as much as 7 to 8 inches of rain today. Now, as you get across our region, we do have a tropical wave to our south that is impacting portions of the Windward Islands, but you'll notice there is a very sharp cutoff. So throughout the day today, that has been providing us with some high-level clouds, not a whole lot of moisture. Here's a look at the water vapor loop. You can see moisture more again down toward the Windward Islands there. As we get into the next couple of days, we'll have a few spotty showers around, but nothing more, nothing out of the ordinary for this time of the year. I should say that. And the end of the week and heading into the weekend looks like we'll have some dry breaks here across the region. So for this Tuesday, hopefully you had a great day. Temperatures overnight tonight staying warm, 81 degrees. We'll have a mainly clear sky, and we'll take a peek at a couple of local forecasts as we get into Wednesday, officially midway through the week here. St. John, your forecast for tomorrow, 89. We'll have a shower in spots. Keep in mind, just in spots. It's not looking like an all-day rain event here. St. Thomas, 89 degrees. Also some spotty showers around throughout the afternoon and also into the evening. And a very similar forecast as we get into St. Croix for Wednesday. Temperatures topping out near 90 degrees. If you do plan on doing any boating, here's a look at the marine conditions on the Atlantic side. A very similar forecast here, the Atlantic and the Caribbean side. We are under that easterly trade wind flow, so winds are coming in out of the east at 10 to 15 knots. We flip over to the Caribbean side. Again, very similar forecast. Wave heights between 3 and 5 feet. Here's a look at the extended forecast. Wednesday, a shower in spots. Also looks to be the case on Thursday and Friday, but just looking at more in the way of a stray shower. Then as we get ready to head into the weekend, drier air moves in with drier conditions and sunshine. Back to you, Sandy.
Thank you for that update, and we welcome those stray showers whenever they're ready to come. Cristino Gonzalez is our featured weather artist there, second grader. Some beautiful weather there, cloudy conditions, smooth sailing, and some fishing opportunities there. Cristino, thank you for that. Send us your News 2 weather picture to the address on the screen, and be sure to include all the info we need. Tune in to see it right here on News 2. That is all for this edition. We'd like to thank you for joining us for all the latest. I'm Sandra Gaman saying have a wonderful evening.